How do you keep a food diary or log in a way that you can lose more weight and faster than before? In this video, I'm going to show you why you should keep a food diary, and the biggest benefit is not the one most people think. How to keep the simplest, easiest food diary in the least amount of time possible, but that will still help you to lose weight faster. And this is about knowing which information should be in the food diary and which information is unnecessary. And number 3, the 3 most common mistakes people make when keeping a food diary that can be easily avoided. And fourthly, 2 simple ways you can use the food diary to speed up your weight loss even more. But first, why should you listen to me about keeping a food diary? Well, I've run a weight loss clinic for 15 years, and my weight loss clinic is not based on short-term dieting, but instead on long-term weight loss. And the best way to get long-term weight loss is by changing your behavior and habits. So I've seen literally thousands of food diaries over the last 15 years. And because I see clients via Zoom, I've seen food diaries from all over the world. And in fact, a food diary is so important to my approach, and should be to yours as well, that if a client says they can't or won't keep a food diary, then I can't work with them. By the way, there are usually 2 reasons most people give for not wanting to keep a food diary, and one of these is feeling bad writing down when you've overeaten. And I'm going to show you how to get around this objection and the other most common objection in a moment. But first, why keep a food diary? The best reason relates to research studies that have shown that people who keep a food diary can lose twice as much weight as those who don't. That's got to be enough of a reason, right? But why does keeping a food diary help you to lose weight? Firstly, lots of clients will attend their first session with me and say, "I hardly eat anything, I don't know why I'm overweight." And then they keep a food diary, and then we both say, "Oh, so there's the reason." This comes down to awareness. You wouldn't drive your car with a blacked out windscreen, and trying to lose weight without having awareness of what you're eating is just too difficult. Without a food diary, you're just going on impressions and hunches. You can't fix a problem if you don't know what it is, and a food diary is a big part of the way you figure out what's wrong. The second reason why food diaries are helpful is that you can see not just what is going wrong, but why. A food diary helps you to identify eating triggers. For instance, it may be emotional eating, or busy times at work, or socializing. When you know what the trigger to overeating is, you can fix it. And if you don't know what it is, then these triggers, these particular situations will keep undermining your efforts and make you feel miserable because you don't even know why you're overeating or why you can't lose weight. And the third reason to keep a food diary is a food diary helps with meal timings. When it comes to meals and snacks, timing is everything. I often say to clients, the right meal at the wrong time is still the wrong meal. And as you'll see, we can use a food diary to find the right meal timings for you. And that brings us to the fourth benefit of food diaries. Keeping a food diary helps you to tailor your meal plan to you. Most people try and follow plans that are one size fits all. Think of the chocolate lover going on a low-carb diet, or the person who enjoys eating solid food, which I imagine is most of us, going on a shakes diet. And this is a large part of why they fail. If you want to give yourself the maximum chance of your weight loss plan being sustainable, one that you can do for life, you need it to be as personalized as possible. It needs to be completely suited to you. And the best way to do this is a food diary. Because you're seeing what's happening with your eating, and you can make adjustments to meals and snacks in the best way that suits you. Imagine trying to do that without a food diary. It's too difficult. And the fifth reason to keep a food diary, and admittedly this is not a common application of food diaries, but with my clients I like to use the awareness generated by keeping a food diary to help them connect with their natural feelings of hunger and fullness. So rather than feeling insatiable and out of control with food, they're attuned to their own body signals of when they need to eat and when they need to stop. This can make a huge difference to how much someone eats. A food diary is incredible for all those reasons I've just given, so why would someone not want to keep a food diary? Mostly people have 2 common objections to keeping a food diary. Firstly, as I said, for many clients there is embarrassment associated with writing a food diary. Often they feel bad just reading what they've written on their own, and they feel even worse if they have to share that information with someone else. But this brings up an important point. Why do they feel bad? Because they've bought into diet thinking, that food is either good or bad, and if you eat bad food, you failed, But with my approach to weight loss, this good-bad thinking is the problem that we need to fix. You see, when you think of food as good and bad, then the foods that you think as bad, you create cravings for those. Just like if I tell you don't do something, it makes you want to do it more. By making food forbidden, you make it more attractive. And if you tell yourself, like most diets do, that if you want to lose weight, you have to stick perfectly to the diet plan, then even if you have bad food just once, you feel like you've messed up. That perfectionism means that if you ever slip up, you just think, oh well, I've messed up now, I might as well just keep eating. In other words, this sort of thinking makes binges more likely. So a big part of my behavioral approach is eliminating this unhelpful thinking that food is good or bad. Food is neither good nor bad, it's just food. When you think like this, you can be relaxed around food. You'll no longer obsess over food decisions. And that means with my approach and with keeping a food diary, that there is no judgment of food decisions. I tell clients you could eat 35 chocolate bars and write it in the food diary and I won't say a thing, because no food is forbidden. There is no judgment. I won't make you feel bad for anything you've eaten. So that lack of judgment of eating decisions is a core part of my weight loss approach. And that means that the purpose of the food diary is not to make you feel bad for what you've eaten, but just to give us awareness. Once clients realize that overeating is not going to be used to make them feel bad, they feel more relaxed about keeping a food diary. Now, the second objection to keeping a food diary is that it takes too long. Many of my clients are busy, managing busy lives with families, jobs, social lives, and the last thing they want to do is spend extra time keeping a food diary, which is why the food diary I recommend, which I'll talk about in this video, is the simplest, easiest, least time-consuming food diary. What I tell my clients is that the food diary should give us as much information as we need without it being a pain in the neck. And I'll show you how to do that now. So, how to keep a food diary. What is the best means or method for keeping a food diary? There are a few options. So let's go through each of those. So the Word document, I actually send every client that signs up with me a Word document with a food diary template that I want them to use. And I'll talk a bit more about that, but this isn't the most practical way of doing it since you won't always have access to a Word document on your computer. So another alternative is to keep a notebook, and some clients love buying a nice new notebook and filling out their food diary on there. But again, portability is sometimes a problem, and then when it comes to sending the food diary to me, it does pose some challenges. So the third option is a notes app in the phone, and this is probably the most common method that most of my clients use nowadays, because most people have their phone with them all the time, so it's always accessible, and it takes just seconds to jot down what you're eating on your phone, and then they can easily cut and paste it into an email and send it to me. And finally, I should mention apps. If you can find an app that doesn't count calories, then you could use that. But if it counts calories, I'd say don't use it. Counting calories goes against my weight loss approach, because you start making decisions then based on your calorie allowance or how many calories you got left to use that day, instead of your own natural feelings of hunger and fullness. Calorie counting is not a pleasant, relaxed, or natural way to manage your eating or weight. And for that reason, I'm out. It doesn't suit my weight loss approach. Also, some apps are really time-consuming to use, so avoid those. As I said, you want keeping a food diary to be as quick and simple as possible. Eliminate the friction. So, what should you write in a food diary? To keep a food diary as simple as possible but still useful, you want to refine it down to only what is absolutely needed. So in the first week of a client seeing me, I ask them to keep a very simple food diary, and then I add some other things in later weeks which I'll talk about later. So I get clients to write day, date, time. Day and date, it's obvious why we want that, but capturing the time you ate something is crucial. I need to know what time you ate breakfast, what time you had a mid-morning snack, and what time you had lunch, because that's how we figure out the right timings of meals. Remember, the right meal at the wrong time is still the wrong meal. So day, date, time, and then what you ate and drank. That's it. Day, date, time, then what you ate and drank. And as I said, we don't want calorie contents written down. You don't need to weigh food. You just write down simply what you ate. For example, Monday 27th of May, lunch 12:30 p.m, chicken sandwich, orange juice, chocolate bar. That's it. it should take you seconds to write down each entry in your food diary. More than that, and you're doing it wrong. So let's now move to 3 common food diary mistakes. The first one is not writing it down immediately. The longer you leave writing in a food diary, the more likely you'll forget things. If you're trying to remember what you ate yesterday, it's almost inevitable that even if you remember the meals, you won't remember every aspect of them. And the easiest thing to forget is snacks. Now, the second most common food diary mistake is drinks. Drinks can often be the source of lots of calories, especially juices, colas, and alcohol. And especially with something like alcohol, which can then influence further food choices. You really want to know what and how much you're drinking. And again, not to feel bad about your choices, but to bring awareness of your decisions. Remember, nothing is forbidden, but you do want to have awareness. And the third mistake people make with food diaries is not reviewing it. Now, of course, clients who come to see me, we go through the food diary each week. But even if you're not seeing me, it's really helpful, crucial even, to review your food diary each week. Because when you go through it, you can spot patterns and triggers. It's so helpful for making changes to your behavior. And again, when reviewing your food diary, you do not do this. Oh, you ate that chocolate bar, you idiot. Why did you do that? This is not a helpful way of reviewing the food diary. Instead, you want to be interested, curious, try and see the patterns. Oh, I always eat a chocolate bar after my Wednesday meeting with my boss at 3 p.m. That's helpful to know, isn't it? And now a tip to supercharge your food diary. Once you develop the habit of keeping a food diary, you might want to add this. On my food diary template that I send to clients, the first column is day, date, time. The second column is what they ate and drank. And then there's a third column. That's for insights and observations. And if you want to supercharge your progress, you want to start filling in the third column. You want to start noticing and writing down things like, I wasn't hungry when I ate that. I didn't enjoy that. I ate less than I usually would. I noticed that I'm less hungry in the mornings now. These observations help you notice triggers, patterns, and places where you can cut back without it affecting enjoyment. This helps you become more aware and change your behavior. I now say to clients that the food diary is not complete unless you fill in the third column. And again, you want to keep judgment out of it. A bad third column entry is, why do I keep eating chocolate? There must be something wrong with me. No, most people like chocolate. There is nothing wrong with you. And passing judgment on yourself isn't going to help. Most dieters try and use judgment and guilt to force change, and it never works. Guilt is not a strategy. Now, the other thing you can add to a food diary is observations about timings. Did you feel satisfied after a meal? Because as I've said, meal timings are important. And for more on meal timings and whether you should eat or skip lunch, watch this video next. And I'll see you there.